All right, people, stand by. We are live in 10. Camera's good. Excellent. Kim, you ready? Well, of course I'm ready. I'm the one that's talking. In 4, 3, 2. There we go. It is 4:30 my time, Pacific Standard. That makes it 7:30 in Ottawa or Ontario. I just want to look up here and show you one big old tree. That is a huge tree, and I'm really hurting myself looking up like this, but I wanted to show you. It's pretty cool. I think that's cedar. Pretty sure that's cedar. It might be hemlock, but I don't know my trees very well. I should. Tell me, is that hemlock or cedar? Doesn't matter. But hey, important thing is, it is 4:30 my time. It is 7:30 p.m. Ottawa or Ontario time. And what does that mean? I'm going to explain that to you right now. Well, there's a rider that I know. Well, I don't know him personally, but I know him from YouTube and Facebook and all that good stuff. His name is Docmanrides1, and I'll put a link up here in the top, maybe right in front, maybe big and bold, about this big. And he approached me and asked if I would be interested in doing a sync ride. And I was like, yeah, I'd love to do a sync ride. Then I said, what's a sync ride? And a sync ride is when you've got basically two individuals. This is where I look crazy and I talk to myself. This is when you got two individuals at two different points on the country or the planet, and they are riding at the same time. Now I know you're thinking, you're not riding, Kim. I will in a moment. Jeez, everyone's so impatient these days. So the cool thing is, at this moment, Doc is riding his bike, and he's going to be talking about a topic of his choice, and I'm going to be talking about a topic of my choice. And thank you. And my topic, I think it parallels, a little bit of a hiccup there. I think my topic parallels his. I'm going to talk a little bit, very briefly, on post-traumatic stress disorder. And there's a reason for that. And I thought maybe if I could just sort of bend everyone's ear for a moment. I'm sure you won't mind. Post-traumatic stress disorder is something that is probably more widespread than people understand. A lot of people will associate the acronym with veterans of conflicts, and it is very prevalent among our veterans, young and old, and it can really, and it does really shackle people that are experiencing this disorder in their lives, and makes them to the point that they can't function. And it's not something because of them, it's because of something that they've experienced. And in combat, of course, you're going to see a lot of things that average Joe like myself or yourself will never see, hopefully. And I think that's what Doc is going to focus on. Maybe he's going to focus on something else altogether, but I'd like to focus on another side of this, which affects another group of individuals, and that is first responders. Because each day you've got firefighters, paramedics, police, emergency room people kind of fall into the same umbrella here, I believe, because all of them are going to be involved in the brutal, traumatic injuries that occur on a day-to-day basis across the country and across the world. From car accidents to fires to murders to domestic disputes, all of that sort of nasty things. These individuals are there to basically pick up what's left. Now that sounds kind of sounds kind of crass as I say it. I'm thinking, geez, I should edit myself, but I can't edit this. This is a one-take wonder here. So if I do say something that sounds maybe a little bit insensitive, it's not meant to sound that way. So why am I talking about first responders specifically? Well, my grandmother told me a story about her son, my uncle, when he was first in the RCMP. He had just joined it. This is back in, I want to say 64. That's 1964 for you youngins. And he had just joined the RCMP, and you know, he came out of depot, out of Regina, and with all his training, and they put him out in the field. And his first motor vehicle accident is what I want to tell you about. This is an account that I got from my grandmother. I never talked to him about it, but my grandmother shared it with me one day. And just to give you an idea of some of the things that you know, first responders, thank you, Harley, that was nice of you, first responders experience. So he's called, I have my blinkers on. Just once I start talking, it's terrible. I'm pretty sure I moved my finger, but whatever. Anyways, enough of my little distractions. Now I'm 100% focused on story. Here we go. He's called to his first motor vehicle accident. First bad motor vehicle accident. Not a rear ender, not a fender bender, nothing like that. A bad motor vehicle accident. They get on scene. There is a car flipped upside down in a ditch. The ditch is you know, it's not running with water, but it's got water in it, and it's kind of damp and muddy. They get there and they get the woman out of the car. She's unconscious. They get her on the board. They get her up to the ambulance. As they're strapping her in, she comes to, and she's hurt pretty bad. Now, but you got to remember, back in the 60s. Seatbelts? What's a seatbelt? Oh, that's that thing I always push out of the way. You didn't have to wear them. In fact, a lot of the older cars didn't even have them. So she was hurt pretty bad. But she comes to, and she just starts thrashing and screaming. Not coherently, just screaming and moving and thrashing, and she's in pain too. So every time she moves, it causes pain, excruciating pain, and so she's flipping out. Now, I don't know what they did, if they just put her in the ambulance and took her away, or if they sedated her. And I gotta remember, this is back in the early 60s. Ambulance attendants could very well be guys that were medics in the war back then. You know, they could have easily been like 40-year-old guys like myself, working as ambulance attendants. So they could have given her morphine right off the bat. Things were probably a little bit different back then. And to calm her down and basically put her out, so A, she doesn't hurt herself anymore. And I mean, if you got broken bones, you don't want to be thrashing around and risk opening up a main artery. So they put her out, they take her away. They can't get the vehicle out of the ditch. It's late at night, I guess. So they come back first thing in the morning with the tow truck, and my uncle has to be there for the extraction for some reason. And they hook onto this car, and they start tipping it over, and it tips over onto his wheels on the side of the bank. They go down to, you know, take the chains off of it, and the tow truck driver freaks out. And my uncle goes down there, and the woman was freaking out because in her car was her it was a young baby, like under a year old, 10-month-old type thing, and the baby had been ejected from the car, and the car had actually landed on the baby, and it was underneath the roof of the car. And so my uncle was there, and he sees this, and he just didn't connect. He didn't. It was one of those experiences that they tell you about, but you're not prepared for it, and especially when you're right there with all the sounds, the smells, and sights. And he went back to the detachment and told his supervising officer that he was done. He was quitting. It was over. And it took, you know, some time off and you know, time to think about that decision, where he finally decided not to quit. But that baby, the image of that baby in that mud and grass was one of those images that stayed with him, and it's a very traumatic experience.